Rolling.
Welcome back to Get Louder Podcast. We got special guests in the house. Tell them who she is.
Yes, we do. She is the founder and managing attorney of Trussell Law, APC, patent, intellectual property, all that good stuff. She's going to build a bridge from your brand to your business and back and forth. We have Kristen Roberts in the house, but we're going to run that intro first. Kristen Roberts, how we doing? Where's the crowd?
Hi, yeah, right. We're getting claps here. applause.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. It's great to be here.
Great
Excited to be here. It's very loud.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's gonna get louder. Honestly,
isn't that why it's called that? Yeah.
Our volume will just continuously go up the whole time.
Yeah, right.
So.
Just louder and louder and louder and louder, which is fine because I'm a very loud person,
Perfect.
so it works out.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we said on the show, you are the founder and managing attorney of Trussell Law, APC, and you're growing.
I am. Yep.
You just hired somebody?
I just hired a new senior attorney in the firm. I'm really excited to have her. Mm-hmm. She's up in Sacramento, but she'll be relocating to San Diego in early next year, early 2024. Be my first San Diego attorney here, local.
How did
all my other attorneys live elsewhere.
How did you find her?
I hired a recruiter, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first experience with a recruiter as well. So this is like stepping into the bigger leagues, right? Growing the firm, getting past 7 figures, doing all of that. We have a larger presence now, and I want to make sure that we're reflecting the caliber and quality of work that we're able to do for our clients. So it's exciting. It's scary. It's exciting. It's scary. It's all the things. What nerve-sighted, nervous and excited.
Nerve-sighted. Ex-nervous. I don't know. So is she relocating specifically for the job?
Yes. And I'm paying her to move to San Diego.
You're like, hey,
so here's the compensation relocation package. Here, move to San Diego. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point did you know that you needed to bring on an in-house attorney?
Well, I have 2 right now,
okay.
But we're needing to expand to a 3rd because we have more work coming in, and it's a lot for me to manage. And as I step into the role of CEO and step away from doing as much legal production, it requires that I have somebody else to take on most of the work that I've been doing. So I need somebody better than me. So I always try to look for people better than me because, I set a high bar. So,
And these other people, where are they located?
One's in Los Angeles, the other's in Colorado, but licensed in California, Colorado, and New Jersey.
Got it.
And then we have a few other contract attorneys throughout the country.
Wow. How does that work working with, I guess, remote attorneys within your business? Like,
it works pretty similarly to how it worked when we were going through COVID, right? I mean, my firm had always been remote, so to some degree, I have most of the staff comes in twice a week, and then everyone else, we always just work from home. Otherwise, I don't want to go into the office every day. If everyone is going into the office every day, that means I have to go in every day because I have to see what's going on. I got to see what you're doing. So we have, regular check-ins. We have weekly meetings with the whole staff, and then we have case review meetings at the end of the week with each of the attorneys, and we go over all their work. So we make sure work is being produced and moving forward, and clients are happy and taken care of. But that doesn't really require butts and seats. And I'm from the generation of, I think I was like the last law school class that was really expected to be in the office all the time, butts and seats. But my first law firm I ever worked for was really innovative because I joined them back in like 2011. And they were already on a remote schedule. So we were doing this thing called hot bunking, where they'd have offices, but you shared your office with another person. So you would go in 2.5 days a week, and then the other person would come in 2.5 days a week, and you would split the office, and we were fully paperless at the time, which for early 2010s was not normal for law firms. Most of the firms that I knew still had like entire storage units full of paper and boxes, and so you're like paying rent just to store people's shit. Oh, can I swear? I'm allowed to swear.
Go for it.
Okay, I did it. It happened. Are you gonna?
Now that marks the time we have to get a little bit louder.
Are you gonna bleep me out now? No. But yeah, it was. So I think I got sort of trained in a different way from the start of my career, which was a little bit different than most law firms do things.
More virtual.
Yeah, we did a lot of. We still had a lot of clients coming into the office because we were in North Park at the time, but. We were doing, meetings over video still. We had like Skype accounts and stuff like that. So it wasn't, it didn't feel weird to me when I started my law firm in 2014 to go that route and say, well, I'll be virtual and have virtual clients because we're a federally regulated practice area, which means we're not limited to California. So we can take clients in all 50 states and even internationally.
Right. Interesting. So with these types of cases that you guys take, is it something that requires a lot of collaboration, or is it just like, here's what you got to do the work, and let me know when it's done? Like,
that's a great question. I think that the answer kind of depends on the nature of the client, attorney-client relationship. So we are a little bit different than other intellectual property firms because, number one, we're a boutique firm, so we're smaller, but we still have the support level required to support larger companies. Whereas, some of the options in San Diego either feel like you're working with a giant law firm or you're working with a solo. And solos can be tough because you don't always get the responsiveness. If they're on vacation, it's like, well, who do I call? There's nobody. And that's how I ran my practice for a while. It was just me. And then I realized that to have the kind of impact I wanted to have on San Diego and the world, I needed to step outside myself and start bringing other people into the firm and start really growing a team. That brings its own host of issues, right? Like managing a team, managing employees. You start getting away from the practice of law and start getting into the management of people. Yeah, and that's its own
beast,
learning curve and beast and all of that. But as far as cases go, most of our clients want a relationship with us because we're intellectual property attorneys, but our focus is on business as well. So, we really want to make sure that the clients that we work with understand, like, yeah, you can have all these trademarks or you can register all these copyrights, but how is it going to make you money? Right. What's your plan for it? Otherwise, you're just throwing money on, and which is fine for some businesses, right? Some businesses are big enough that they're like, we don't care. Register everything. We're like, all right, sounds good. But other companies have budgets. They're smaller. They don't, they're not used to spending thousands of dollars on one thing. And if they do that, they want to make sure that it's going to have value and they're not going to just abandon it in the future.
Got you. Are you typically, what percentage of I guess cases, is the right word, cases in this situation, are where people are trying to like either sue somebody for infringement, or are you on that side of things? Yeah, compared to just like people filing, I need to get everything copyrighted and trademarked and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that we focus on the 5 Ps of what I call them, the 5 Ps of intellectual property.
Right.
So that's going to be, first you're going to identify what you have. But it's the strategy part of it, right? It's the planning. So that's P number 1, planning. I call it, identifying, strategizing, whatever, but it's part of the planning process. And I think that process gets overlooked a lot because people go, well, I want this, I want that, I want this. And it's like, well, why do you want it? Right. What's your plan for it? So planning is number 1, and then we protect it. So that's the foundation. Filing, prosecuting. We say prosecution, and a lot of people think it means lawsuits. Right. But prosecuting a trademark or a patent or copyright just means you're starting the process of registering it.
Okay.
And so we plan, we protect, then we police for our clients. So we go out and we start looking for infringers and we notify them of infringement. We monitor their marks for them. We monitor their portfolios. Right. And then we profit. Profit is the last piece. So profiting off of your intellectual property is important because a lot of people look at it as protection, but protection costs money. And if you're not making money, then you're just going to be putting money into something, right? So there has to be a plan for money generating activity.
Can you give us an example of how you profit?
Yeah, licensing is a great example. So, and a lot of people like to think of it as, a lot of people think really sort of directly. They're like, licensing, so I'm going to sell my intellectual property to somebody else or let somebody else use it. And they forget that there are other ways that are a little bit more subtle that you can make money or you can raise brand awareness that will drive revenue and traffic. So for example, you can do a deal with somebody where you agree that they're going to promote you or endorse you or vice versa, or you collaborate on something together. Like you and JPro, for example, you both have your kind of own thing to some degree, but you come together to do this podcast and you can both elevate and promote your own brands through the podcast. And technically that's licensing because you're allowing the podcast, which is its own thing, to use your identity, your name, your likeness, your information, your brand names to help kind of elevate and raise awareness of the podcast, which drives traffic, which builds goodwill, which can eventually lead to money and sponsorships and all of that stuff. So, a lot of people don't think of it, so they think of it really directly as opposed to thinking of all the ways that sort of giving permission implicates their intellectual property.
Wow. You're branding and giving permission without even knowing it all the time.
All the time, yeah. And knowing how to hang on to those things and identify those things, hold back, give, how much to give, do I charge for it? Those things become really important.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's your fee for being on this podcast right now?
I signed an NDA.
$1 million. $1
Billion.
I'm glad that I'm not too old.
Right? Yeah.
We're all
We
old
get the
enough.
reference.
We're all old.
All these
Yay.
kids watching are like, why are they
What is
touching their
this?
mouth?
Yeah, what is this? I'm like, oh God, I'm so old. What happened?
So I just trademarked my name,
Yeah.
J Pro.
Woo! That's exciting.
Got him.
And the reason I did it was because all these J Pros popped up. Every time I was doing something, all of a sudden I would see J Pro this, J Pro that, J Pro this, and I'm like, man, y'all saturated my name. You know what I mean? So I wanted like complete ownership of it. But I trademarked J Pro. But to be honest, I really had like no purpose, no plan. Really don't even know why I did it. Than just to say I have it trademarked. I'm the official J Pro. What can I do with this trademark?
How does he do the last P? Profit.
Profit off that. Well, I mean, it sort of depends on what your goal is and how you trademarked it. So trademarks are not just carte blanche protection for a name. So you said like, I own the name now. Well, I could start a JPro business if I was like a cake decorator, right? I could start a JPro business if I was, an airline.
Because it's a different category.
Because it's a different class of goods and services. And that's really how trademark infringement is evaluated. And there's like 11 different factors when you're talking about infringement in a court of law versus allowing a trademark to go through, because the USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, has their own way of doing it. But, so it kind of depends on the underlying mark itself and what it is that you're trying to do. But you can do a number of things with it to kind of help profit off of what it is that you're doing. Now, I look at a lot of it as, how are you bringing business in, right? And what does that name get you? Is that the name that people recognize? And if it is, that's by blocking people out of the market, that is indirectly bringing money to you because you're stopping people indirectly from being able to kind of encroach on that space that you're building for yourself. It's a limited monopoly, which is nice.
Limited monopoly.
Limited monopoly.
That's sort of
Monopoly man.
well, that's sort of what I wanted. Is I wanted a monopoly on the name.
Yeah.
Meaning, this is my name. I get the J Pro website. I get the J Pro LLC. I want the J Pro Instagram. I want the J Pro social media handles. Like I don't want to be J Pro dot something else. I want to be just J Pro across the board.
Well, and that can be helpful when you mention like social media handles and stopping other people from kind of stepping into your space. That having the trademark can also be helpful, because when it's registered, it makes those takedown notices a lot easier to submit to the various social media platforms. So Instagram has its own takedown request for trademark infringement. Now you have to draw the line, connect the dots for their departments and say, this is how it's infringing my brand. If they see somebody, let's say a private chef that calls themselves J Pro Cooking or something like that, Instagram's probably not going to take that down because they have discretion, right? Especially if you're sort of narrowly tailored in your class and it's like podcasting services, right? It's not like a full, or video services, and it's not more for like entertainment purposes. So that can be challenging, but if you have a good path forward, like if you have an attorney that kind of puts something together for you, then you can kind of use that for each additional one, and they kind of start coming down, falling like dominoes a little bit quicker.
When you did it, did you have to identify what industry you were in or what it was? What did you do it as?
Should I say it?
You can. It's all public record.
Yeah. So I think it's a business consulting.
Okay.
So that's general. I mean, it's more general than like video.
Right.
Services.
So it's a little bit broader.
Yeah.
It's a broader class than just video. But if you, let's say, have business consulting services and all it says is business consulting services, and then somebody else says, well, I want to file a video production one, that might be problematic, because the USPTO is good about blocking other marks from entering the space, but they don't catch them all because it's human beings on the other side, right? So if there was a mark that's stepping into your space that you aren't aware of because you're not monitoring your trademark and you're not doing that due diligence, you're never going to know that there's another mark that's gotten through. And that's what we do for our clients a lot of the times, is we plug their mark into our system, and then it pings us whenever another mark is filed that's too similar.
Yeah.
So we can at least give them a heads up.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're always going to do something about it, but it gives them the advance notice that there's something brewing.
Mm. Isn't there? Didn't Phil Jackson trademark 3-peat? Do you know that? Is
No, I
it?
didn't know that.
Can you? Is it like the coach of the Lakers, right? One of the coaches of the Lakers that coached Kobe and all that. I think he tried to either trademark the word 3-peat, and like how can you really get away with that? Like, it's like, where does that actually stand? If someone says it on TV, if somebody says it like in a public setting where it's like maybe a show or performance, like how can you ever track that?
Well, it depends on how it's being used.
Right.
So there's exceptions to infringement, like fair use, for example, is one that's used a lot. So if you're doing a comparison, and the only way for you to do a true comparison is to reference the to reference the trademark. So if you're like pairs with Apple products, or matches the iPhone, right? That's a trademark, but how are you going to? You're not going to say pairs with a phone that a company in the Silicon Valley puts out you can like hold up to you, that has a smartphone screen, like.
So it depends on how you're using it.
Depends on how you're using it. Depends on what circumstances it's being used in. So that's why I'm always hesitant to say, a lot of people go, oh, it's not trademark infringement if you just do this, or it's not copyright infringement if you only use 7 seconds of a song, right? That is just bad thinking.
Right.
And the reason that gets into people's heads is because most people don't want to do analysis. They're not like nerdy lawyers like me going through these, like, ooh, give me all the facts and let me tell you all about it. It's more like average people going, well, I just want to know, is it infringement or not? Right. And so they get these sound bites that sound really good, that give you sort of like a starting point, but that's very rarely is the full picture. Mm-hmm. And that's why having an attorney can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've worked with some big companies, it seems like. What was your involvement with Walmart and Lululemon and Chipotle? Yeah,
so we've done, I can't share specific details, about those, but we've negotiated deals with all of them for our clients. So we were not negotiating on behalf of those companies. Right. We were negotiating on behalf of our clients.
Interesting.
Target as well.
And Target.
As well, yeah.
Don't forget the Target now.
Yeah.
So without giving too much detail, your client had a bone to pick, had some beef.
No, not at all. It wasn't beef at all.
Oh,
it was
okay, so
we were doing deals. So one of our clients was like a very high level person at Lululemon. Uh-huh. So we were negotiating a deal for that person. Another one of our clients had a line of products coming out at Target. So we negotiated a deal for that person. Huh. Another one of our clients had a licensing deal that they were doing with Chipotle. So we negotiated that deal. Huh. Another one. So these are like money making
very
deals.
Business oriented situations.
Yeah, we have some disputes, but for the most part, like I mentioned before, we're a little bit different than other law firms. Like I can tell a client, yeah, give me your money and I'll sue the shit out of them for you. You know what I mean? But like very rarely does that result in any kind of outcome that the client actually wants. Because when you're in a dispute, you're spending money, right? Money is getting dumped into your enforcement efforts. And oftentimes it sucks the creativity out of you as an owner. It sucks a lot of like attention and time and energy out of you as an owner, even with a good lawyer. I always say you hire a good lawyer so that you can put all of your problems onto the lawyer. Mm-hmm. That's why we charge so much.
Mm-hmm. Let you guys stress out.
Yeah, because we stress on your behalf, but that doesn't mean the client stops stressing.
Of course.
Right? So disputes from our side of things, disputes are a necessary evil, but our goal is to make sure that those disputes are used as a tool to get the outcome that everybody can live with, as opposed to trying to go all the way to trial. Now, there may be a case where going all the way is required. I've had a couple of those in my career where it just needed to go all the way because the opposing party the opposing counsel didn't actually know what they were doing. So we kept getting pushback when the law was like squarely in our favor, and we kept saying, that's not how that works. And the lawyer was like, well, you're wrong. And I'm like, then we're going to go to court. I'm sorry, right? And then the court was like, you're wrong to the opposing counsel. And the opposing counsel's like, oh, damn it. Yeah, so, it happens.
So you rarely go to trial? How often?
I've had a couple of trials, but nothing. My other senior attorney's been to trial quite a bit. Yeah. Most of her work is in the copyright infringement space. That tends to go more often than not, because when copyrights are registered, The damages are statutory, meaning you automatically get paid when somebody infringes your work.
Right.
And also attorney's fees are wrapped in. So you get attorney's fees and costs on top of statutory damages. So it's a lot easier of a sell for an attorney to go, I'll put you on contingency for this case because it looks really good and it looks like we're going to get a lot of damages out of it. So that's why those cases tend to go. So the cases that tend to go forward are like criminal cases, personal injury cases, often employment cases, and then contingency copyright cases are some of those as well. Business cases will sometimes go, but often not, and more often than not, they end up in arbitration or mediation or something along those lines. But part of the reason there's a theme with those ones that I just told you about, criminal defense is out of necessity, right? Family law out of necessity, right? But the other ones are all on contingency basis, which means you're not paying out of pocket for them. The lawyer covers all the costs, and if they don't win, they don't get anything.
Right.
So the cases where the lawyers are on contingency are the cases that will more often go than the ones that aren't, because there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing to lose at that point, because what are you going to do? Give up?
Right.
Not take any money? You know what I mean? Like at some point, you're like, that offer's not going to work. So we got to keep moving forward, right? You've already invested the money and the time. So,
Absolutely.
But hourly cases, nobody's happy at the end. You know, nobody wants to spend $50,000 to get back, 70,
Right.
or to get back 20, or to, so you always, lawyers will be very happy to take your money and litigate, but not all lawyers will be honest about what the cost and the expense and the drain will be on you. And that warrants examination before taking the step of going to litigation, in my opinion.
Right. It's like last resort.
I don't know if it's last resort. I think it's more just like being aware of what you're going to be up against.
Got you.
And what it's going to do to you mentally, right?
The next segment of this show, we're actually going to cue up a instrumental, and you're going to sing for
Okay,
us.
really? Is that true? Okay, what are we going to sing? What are we singing?
I just thought of that right now. I was like, we should have set that up, because you are a singer.
I am a singer.
And a songwriter.
I am a songwriter and a singer.
That's right. So have you come across any cases involving music?
Yeah, we're doing some work right now for a client. I mean, it's all, again, confidential.
Yeah.
So we work with a lot of high-profile people that we can't really, unless the client gives us the authority to share, we can't even say who they are.
Right.
So, but we are working right now on a copyright a copyright portfolio full of just like, I think it's like 800 compositions and musical recordings that span back to the 70s.
Wow.
And they weren't all recorded here in the United States. So, and also they were recorded and released at the time when copyright law changed. So the Copyright Act was updated, and I think it was in like 1972 or 73. Don't quote me on the dates because I'd have to look it up. But I think it's either 1972 or 1973, and it didn't go into effect until like 1975 or 1976.
Right.
Which means all of the recordings are subject to the older law, which means we need to then look at what the older law says about some of the recordings. And so it's cool though. And this person is very
big time.
well known. Yeah. Yeah.
Comes from that era though.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the biggest change? Can you identify what the biggest change in copyright law was at that time? Like, what did they change?
So they've changed a lot of, some of them were significant, some of them were insignificant. One of the more significant changes, and I'm not sure if this was in the 70s change or, because there have been several changes. It's not just one change, but because copyright's written into the Constitution. And so one of the older changes was you used to have to put the copyright symbol.
Right.
And if you failed to put the copyright symbol and your work was released or published, we call it publication, your work was published before that law changed and you didn't put the copyright symbol, you're like not eligible to register it at all.
Wow.
And also the United States is one of the only countries that really has this registration
Process.
option. Most of the other countries are operated under the Berne Convention. So they basically sign on to a treaty and they say, well, we'll recognize similar laws. So they kind of try to make it so that the laws fit and work together, because there's no like standard international law for copyright, because most other countries don't require that you register anything at all. The United States doesn't require it either, but in order to even bring a lawsuit, it has to be to be registered.
Interesting. So what do you think do you like how it works over there? Were you about to say something? Do you like how it works over there or how it works over here? Is that like
well, every
Europe?
country's different.
Yeah.
So
What about like Europe?
well, Europe's not a country, so
Like okay, so like the UK.
yeah, that's a different,
yeah.
totally different system. UK is
yeah.
different from France, is different than Spain, is different than Italy, is different than, they're all different.
Yeah.
So and some of them, like I said, if they're Berne Convention countries, then they have sort of some symbiosis, but they're not, doesn't make it all the same. I think that I like the idea of having a registration process, and the only reason I like it is because it creates sort of some continuity, especially if you're trying to look up things. It also creates like a date by which you can start to measure things off of, as opposed to, someone's like, I painted this. Well, when did you paint it? I don't know. It was like 60 years ago. I'm like, okay, but when? Like, when did that happen? And if you're like hiding it in your house and then you come out of the woodwork, well, I did this first. It just gets, in my opinion, it gets a little bit messy.
Yeah.
And I understand why our courts changed this to, you have to have a registration in order to bring a lawsuit. I get that. I don't like it though. I wish that we could say, well, I've submitted my application and now I can bring suit. But there is a little exception. If you've been denied registration, you're still allowed to, you can bring a suit. But it doesn't help you, because if you're like, I'm suing you for copyright infringement, but my copyright was denied, it kind of looks silly, right? But it doesn't mean you have no recourse. It just means you have to be a little more creative.
So why should you be able to sue just on registration?
Because I think it's about establishing standing, right? You need to be able to have a legitimate interest in the work.
Right.
And if it's not registered, there could be heightened proof points that you have to, like in a trademark, for example. If your trademark isn't registered, you can still bring a lawsuit if there's one that's, if there's a registration pending. But you have to kind of jump through the extra steps of proving that you own the rights.
Right.
So it's just, it's extra evidence.
Right.
I don't see why we couldn't do that with copyright law, personally.
I remember when me and my cousin we made a suspension training apparatus, kind of like TRX.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we had all these like proprietary things that were different, and we went heavy into the patent stuff and looking up patents and seeing how everything was done, and then we found our way to make ours an original or what have you, and then we filed for the patent, and it was always we patent pending. It was just always, it's patent pending. It never ever went through, but we always had to say we're patent pending.
Did you file a non-provisional patent or a provisional patent?
I don't remember. That was a while ago.
Interesting.
What's the difference?
Well, so also the United States has a weird system when it comes to patents. We do things different here.
Yeah.
The U.S. is we just different. We built different, but for real. We have an interesting patent system. So unlike other countries, in the United States, if you have a patent and you disclose that patent, meaning you share it with somebody, you share it with an investor, you share it with a manufacturer, you share what it is that you're doing with the world. Hey, look at my thing, right? That's called a disclosure. And whenever the patent office is doing searches for other things that are out there that might block your patent from going through, those are called prior art. Prior art. So your disclosure of your invention can be cited as prior art against your own patent application if you don't file within a year of before a year passes from disclosure. So you can actually block yourself from getting a patent inadvertently because you started sharing it before you got anything on file. Now, a provisional patent buys you extra time. It's not a patent.
Right.
So you can't be like patent pending because and it's cheaper. So people are like, I'll do the cheap one, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not actually.
I think we had provisional then.
Yeah, so you weren't actually patent pending.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we didn't say it. We must have said provisional patent.
Provisional, yeah. But the thing about provisional patents is nobody looks at them from the USPTO. They don't get examined. They just sit there. They're basically a placeholder.
Right.
What they do is they allow you to put everything that you're gonna put in your patent application without having to be super specific, and then you file that, and then you get an extra year of time.
It's like, can you put this on hold for me?
Exactly, it's a placeholder.
I'll be there in a year. Just put it on hold. I'm gonna come pick it up.
Well, now and then it'll give you time to develop and go out and see if it's really something worth pursuing at that point.
That's definitely what we did.
You remember when Fortnite was getting sued for the TikTok dances it was having?
Kind of. I'm not a big Fortnite. I don't
play Fortnite.
I don't play video games. No.
Well, I don't play video games either. But I remember hearing these stories. So Fortnite's a video game, a very popular one with the children. And
the children.
I guess when you win, or I don't know how it works. but they were doing these Fortnite dances.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. Like
Oh,
one of
they
them
have
was
the
like,
avatars, right?
They have the
Fortnite has
avatars.
avatars, and they do their own
Dance.
kind of
Yeah.
like little dances.
Like they were doing like the Carlton, the floss, all that stuff.
Right.
And Fortnite got sued.
For copyright infringement, I'm assuming.
For copyright infringement. At what point is it fair use, and at what point are you copyright infringing?
That is exactly what I just talked about before, which is there is no bright line rule. There is no rule that I can say, if you do this, it's infringement. If you do that, it's not infringement. So as an example, let's say you come up with this really cool dance, right? And you put it out on the internet, it goes viral, and then someone in their classroom, like maybe a teacher or something, teaches it to their students in the classroom. Well, you would say, well, that's okay because it's educational, right? So oftentimes educational purposes can be considered fair use. However, if the teacher is getting paid for that educational content because they're putting it up on their website and they have like members that log in and pay them for that stuff, then that might not be, even though it's still educational, it's educational with a compensation piece.
All about the monies.
Yeah, so one of the best ways, like one of the tests, the main tests is to like, are they profiting off of it? If you're making money off of it, if you're monetizing it, if you're turning it into an advertisement, probably not as safe as if you're just kind of using it for yourself and you're using it for like educational purposes or nonprofit purposes or what have you.
Let's say I have this podcast, right? We have this podcast. Let's say it gathers enough traction. We start making money from it. And I want to start to show off, let's say like Bruce Buffer announces fights. And I want to be like, and we are live.
Yeah.
And I want to start off like that. But he is known for that. And can he sue me?
So it depends. That wouldn't necessarily be copyright because it's short phrases and words typically aren't subject to copyright protection. It's usually trademark. So there may be a trademark infringement claim if he has it protected. But the other sort of element that's coming up a lot more now, especially with the advent of AI, is name and likeness. So it's not copyright infringement, but you could be infringing his name and likeness, which is actually a privacy right. It's not an intellectual property right. It's a privacy right, and it's protected in all 50 states differently. It's a state right. Because it falls under privacy rights, and every state has different privacy rights. California tends to be more expansive with respect to its privacy rights because we have the entertainment industry, right? So celebrities, a lot of these laws came about because of celebrities being hounded by paparazzis. Like Princess Diana, there was a big overhaul in a lot of states' laws after they saw what happened. Do people know about Princess Diana? Do they know what happened to her?
You don't know? You know who Princess Diana is?
You know who Princess Diana was, though, right?
Vaguely.
Oh my God.
She was the princess of Europe.
No, not of Europe.
No, I know she was the princess of England.
Yeah, of England.
Right.
Of England. And she was part of her death was the result of a paparazzi high-speed chase.
Right.
So she was trying to flee paparazzi from like in her face, and she was like, "Get me out of here!" And she took off in a car and died in the car accident. And so that it rocked people like even in the United States, people were like, oh my God, she died. Like people were like in tears, falling out on the ground, crying over this lady. I'm like, you've never met this lady before. Like you're crying.
She was so beloved.
But she was beloved because she was one of the first people, like first in the royal family to like touch somebody that had AIDS. Right. And so she brought awareness to these issues that weren't getting a lot of attention. And so she was beloved. Everybody loved her. So a lot of people looked at it as we need to protect our people and we need to start building up some of these protection laws. And so privacy laws started to kind of really
come about,
develop as a result of that happening. But so here in California and then also New York has somewhat decent privacy laws, but other states, for example, don't have any at all.
Yeah.
So it really depends on, and this is important when it comes to AI because AI, a lot of these entertainment companies are starting to plug in these AI provisions into the contracts about using AI to generate likenesses of celebrities and of actors and of extras and stuff. And I get why they're doing it because it lowers cost. If you don't have to bring someone back in to do a reshoot for a 3-second clip, you can just plug in an AI face and have it mouth and create the voice.
Right.
So much easier, so much cheaper. But then that also creates issues of, well, how much of me are they generating with AI? Are they just going to put me in a movie
Right.
and not have to, have me there at all?
Yeah.
Right? There's a Black Mirror episode exactly on this.
Love Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's called Something is Awful. Janice is Awful.
That's the
The
first
first one.
episode.
Yeah,
the
it's
whole her life was like everyone
and
was
Salma
watching
Hayek
it on
played her.
on
Yeah.
Netflix. Yeah.
And
No,
she's like,
that wasn't
what?
the first episode.
It was
No, of the new
of the new
season,
season.
of the new season.
First episode of the new
Oh,
season.
First episode of the new season. that just
Oh, I
came
haven't
out.
seen the new
It was
season.
good,
Yeah.
but I was watching it going, name and likeness rights are coming up,
Yeah,
and Salma
yeah.
Hayek was like, I want this taken off. My name is
Right.
being used. I don't want to be associated with this, because she took a poop in the church.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
To get her off, trying to get Salma Hayek to do horrible things so that
Right.
she would complain, and she finally did, and the studio was like, sorry,
Yeah.
it's in your contract, and she's like, what? How is this in my contract?
Yeah.
Right.
Bro, it's a trip. Go ahead.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you can't just AI or Photoshop me doing something
Anything.
horrific.
Yeah.
Especially because at first glance, people might not be able to tell a difference. Now you're ruining my reputation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell the celebrities that are tapping into it though too, because Snoop Dogg, I mean, that man is everywhere. You hear new apps are popping up with his avatar. You can use his voice for everything.
Yeah, he was big into NFTs in the metaverse too. I mean,
Morgan Freeman's voice, you hear his voice all over it. It's not him.
right?
hear
But
him
you
all
also
over
have
ads
to
and stuff.
ask, are they being compensated for that?
Right,
And does
right.
it get away from them at any point, right?
Right.
Because right now they have good control over it. But what happens when all you need is a clip and you lift that clip and then some, nefarious person or company decides, okay, we're just going to lift all these clips and start using them. And that's where all these lawsuits are coming from, right? Mid-Journey, all these that are training their AI softwares
Yeah.
on existing content, right? So, hey, I want it to sound like a John Legend song, or I want it to sound like,
Right.
Shania Twain or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's really dangerous, and it's really innovative, but it's also really dangerous. And there's sort of this line that nobody really knows. Where is the line, right?
Right.
Where do we say that's too much? And the courts are really going to play a big role in this, and that's when litigation becomes important, right? That's why litigations are about resolving disputes, but they're also about making law and coloring the law for
Right.
context, because otherwise we just have these weird laws, and it's but how does that actually work?
Yeah. I mean, do you think a lot of it's going to come down to opinion too? For example, the Pharrell and Robin Thicke in the Marvin Gaye case, right? Where they had that song, and it was just they sued them over it sounding like that song, like the Pharrell song sounding like the Marvin Gaye song.
Well, they didn't sue them over
or
it
whatever it
sounding
was.
like it. They sued it over money. They sued them over the fact that they thought they should get a cut,
Right.
Because
Because
they
it sounded like
because
it.
they sampled it.
There was no sample.
They took it and it
There
was
was
like
no
it was an interpolation.
sample.
It was an interpolation. It was an
And
interpolation.
they proved that there was interpolation. Did they admit?
They did, yeah.
They said,
I mean,
we used your song as inspiration.
it was
to
an
create this song.
and I mean interpolations are not full. It's not a sample, so they don't pull it directly.
Right.
But they take the same chord structure and the same thing, and they maybe move it in a different key or whatever. So it is the same. It's just re-recorded in a different way.
Right.
And so
that was bullshit in my opinion.
but that's still and they had Marvin Gaye's estate is very, very, very strict about using stuff because Marvin Gaye's not making more music.
Right.
So, but also you have to remember they only have a limited window that they get to capitalize on this because it's 70 years past the life of the author. So once Marvin Gaye's been dead for 70 years,
Can't do nothing about it.
all of that music falls into the public domain at that point. Now, I mean, and this is a very simplistic way of defining it because there's also other people that were involved in the making of that music.
Right.
It's not just, he wasn't the one recording it and producing it and mixing it and mastering it. And so the labels will also have their hands in that stuff as well.
Right.
But the point being is that they only have a limited window to capitalize on the things that were created. And so if that's the only way of earning money, they're going to be very rigid and strict about not making money off something that they think should have been paid to them.
Right.
So
What if you're an artist and what if you create a song using AI, it sounds like Drake, but you're not making money off of it, right? But you use that to funnel people to your music.
you are making money off of it then.
Indirectly.
Indirectly.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be directly making money. It can be enough to make especially so you also have to look at who's doing the infringement too, right? Because I'm a little, I have 3,000 followers on Instagram, right? On my personal page. I don't think Beyonce is going to come after me because it's not worth her time. It's not worth her money. But if I'm, Snoop Dogg and I take a Beyonce song and I just start using it, that is like, better, right? You not only do you know better, but that's going to get away from Beyonce faster than a little person like me. Now, you also have to ask yourself, is it worth going after infringers? Because sometimes there's opportunity in infringement. And one of the best examples I can give that's recent is, is the president. President Biden, the Let's Go Brandon whole thing where they
yeah, I know it.
the Trump supporters are like, let's go Brandon. And then they have all that like evil Biden stuff where they have like Biden's eyes that are all like glowing and he looks like evil. Well, to do fundraise, so what Biden could have done is they took his name and likeness. That he could have said, you can't take my name and likeness. You can't use that to make money, especially if they're selling shirts and, Let's Go Brandon and shirts and all that stuff. So could he have taken the time to go after them? Yeah, but it probably wouldn't look good, right? The optics of it is not great. So, and also he's like a political figure. So there's other things, but just as an example. And instead he took what they were doing and he flipped it and he used it for himself. So he started selling Let's Go Brandon mugs and he started selling these so when you filled the water up with something hot, his face would appear with the laser eyes.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's funny.
As a fundraising tool. So sometimes there's opportunity in infringement. And I think if you are an owner and you get so bent out of shape about infringement, you sometimes lose sight of the opportunities that can actually arise from infringement. When somebody takes a video and repurposes it and uses it, there's maybe an opportunity. Maybe they have a much bigger following than you do. And maybe there's a way that you reach out to them and you say, hey, look, you got to at least credit me, but let's do one together. Let's put something, maybe we pretend like we're fighting over this and we drum up even more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I feel like that happens a lot.
That does. It really does. And so you're not spending money on lawyers. You're actually investing in an opportunity that can actually build your business.
I think I heard of Elon Musk's baby mama Grimes. She was like, I want you guys to take my voice in AI and create these AI for me. Like I welcome it, because so she was open to
that. Yeah, and I think it depends on what you're comfortable with, right?
What if okay, how about this? What if I'm a content creator, right?
Okay.
And I create content and making these songs, these AI songs.
Okay.
I don't make money off the songs. I make money off of people watching me make the songs. Could that be considered infringement or?
Depends on what the songs are and who gets mad enough to try to sue. And if you know what I mean? It's like, that's like saying, would you care if I took something of yours, would you care? You'd be like, well, what are you going to take? How much of it are you going to take? How long is it going to be? What are you going to use it for? How is it going to be used? When are you going to use it? Are you going to put it out at the same time I'm trying? Are you creating a song about how I suck and you're going to launch it at the same time I'm launching my business in a way that will tank me?
No, they're not launching the song. They're just they're creating the song and showing their creative, how they create the song. So it's a video.
So they're not
of them
showing the song at all?
They're showing the song.
So then they're launching the song.
All right.
It's publicly accessible.
Well, what about cover bands?
Cover bands pay licenses to be able to create covers. They're called mechanical licenses, and they're compulsory. So you have to, once you decide you want to do a cover, if you're going to do a cover and release a cover, like a true cover, you have to get a mechanical license. Now, if you do one on YouTube and you're just a regular old YouTube person putting it out there, oftentimes YouTube will take it down. If you've noticed, right? Like you've violated copyright. I've done that before where I played a couple of songs for a charity event, right? And I'm like, well, technically, am I infringing? Yeah. Are they going to sue me for it? Probably not.
Right.
Don't sue me for it.
YouTube just takes it down.
Please don't sue me. No, but YouTube took it down. So I put it up and I was like playing the piano and everything. And they were like, and they took it down. And I was like, okay.
Is there a country where there's no such thing as copyright infringement?
Well, not off the top of my head. I don't.
Europe.
The country of Europe. The country of Europe. I mean, maybe like Antarctica? I don't know.
No, ain't nobody there.
No, I was thinking
Wars
like,
infringement.
what if you went and you created all this content in like Antarctica, put it out, and come after me.
Well, if it
I'm
goes,
in Antarctica.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean that so depending on what your ties are, so if you have a presence in the United States, if you're putting it out on the TikTok platform or on the Instagram platform, you're using a US based platform to disseminate your message. So if the real question is like, how are you getting it out there? Is it on your own website that you just host yourself and you don't have you know what I mean? So, and a lot of this is layered, right? It's not like one person does one thing. It's like most people don't do their own writing, recording, mixing, mastering, producing, editing, launching, recording the video for it, the marketing of it. It's like there's multiple people and companies that have hands in all of this creative stuff. And so it makes not only the ownership of the copyright difficult, but it also makes the infringement analysis more difficult.
How about this? Like, because the modern age is on social media. It's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
I know. The modern age.
Are people still on Facebook?
MySpace.
I miss MySpace.
I have a MySpace music page.
No way.
How often do you look at it?
I don't even think it still exists.
No,
Does it?
I don't think it exists no more.
No, I think it does. I think the page still exists, but I mean, I have the music. Oh my God.
I remember Justin Timberlake invested in the relaunch of MySpace at one
Yeah,
point.
he did. And then it
lost
became
some
like an
cash.
entire like music thing. It just
Yeah, it's a
switched to
music
music
thing.
and that was it.
Yeah.
I used to have like the haircut where it was like very emo. You know?
I just remember the last time I went there, it like took me so far back because you had the background.
Oh yeah, no, the skins.
Right?
They were
Yeah,
called
the skins,
skins,
right?
They
And then
were
you had your
skins.
top 5.
Yeah, your top 5
Oh
and your
my
music,
God,
and you could like
yeah.
hide. You could hide the player so that nobody knew what song it was because you like found the song. You know, it was like I downloaded it off Napster or LimeWire or
right.
whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anyone to know what this song is. Like I don't want anyone else to find it, so I'm gonna hide the music player and not let anyone And then you'd get like messages. Remember, like message requests and like all that stuff.
The beginning.
MySpace was
Yeah, MySpace
MySpace
was cool.
hit. It was
MySpace was cool.
yeah, it was.
I remember one day everyone just switched to Facebook. I was like, how did people switch over so quickly? Like,
Because MySpace was clunky.
Was it?
really
I
clunky.
I felt like I was a little
like,
like coder,
exactly.
though, right?
You
You
had
could
to
like
be a
code this.
low-key
You had to like
coder.
code the
Yeah, and you
HTML
could-
script
and if
in.
you weren't, you could mess that shit up
Oh,
so
bad!
easily.
And then it was like
That's
your
what I'm
page was all
saying.
jacked up looking. Yeah.
It was all. I would always mess it up somehow.
But they had like websites you could go to that had like the codes for the skins.
Right.
So you'd go to this
remember.
extra website, and you'd copy
Copy
the
it.
HTML, and then you'd go back to the mice, and you'd be like code it, and then you
Yeah.
like plug it in. Oh my God, we're old. It's
were
so
all low-key
bad.
coders,
And then
though.
every picture was like.
With our digital
from, like, up
camera?
here. Yeah.
With
Oh
the
yeah, I remember when the
digital camera.
phone. Every girl had like a camera around her wrist,
Wrapped around the wrist.
and then like a phone that was like this big. Remember how small the phones used to be? Like hello.
Thin ass razors.
like,
Yeah.
hello. Or like the little like bricks where you'd be like, yeah. Hello. Like this big.
It's like they were trying so hard to make phones
Smaller and smaller, and then they got
bigger
bigger.
and bigger and bigger.
And now we're like, hello.
Yeah,
Car
iPads on our
phones.
face.
it's so funny.
It's so funny.
So like, what about this? Like, let's say we create a podcast show, right?
Okay.
A YouTube show.
Let's just say.
Let's just say.
Let's just say.
Just say. So we're creating a YouTube show. We post it on the platforms. We have the colors, the scheme a certain way, the look a certain way, how we start the show a certain way, the formula, the structure of the show, even the background. And then we start seeing other content creators take inspiration from our show, starting it the same way, the lighting is the same, the structure, the set is the same. Can I sue them?
Maybe.
Oh wow!
It's always
I
amazing.
thought
always
I
a
thought the answer was
maybe.
gonna be a no.
No, it's a maybe. So
Probably no.
no, it's a maybe. I mean, it depends on how much they're lifting of your content. So there are certain things that like it's hard to protect. For example, you know, if you're coming up with something that, you know, if you're like the lighting and it's like, but everybody uses this kind of lighting. Everybody uses that. These are the standard production tools that are being used. So certain things are hard to protect. Other things are much easier to protect. Like, for example, the look and feel of something can often be considered trade dress. And a lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually register trade dress. You register it, the applications go in.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, so it's a trademark application, but you structure the application like you would almost a design patent. So, for example, like if I walked you past an Apple store, I bet you when I said Apple store, you know exactly what it looks like.
Yes.
It's that glass box with the thing hanging on the thing, and they all look the same. They've actually filed for trade dress protection of the look of their stores.
Wow.
Because Microsoft started copying it,
Yeah.
right? They started putting out the same glass box look, and they're like, oh, we really like this, right? And so So they wanted to protect it. And so they filed an application for trade dress protection. So certain things that are very unique, non-functional, they're like just your brand sort of look, are often protectable. So, one of the big famous cases was I think Taco Cabana was the case. So if you've ever been to Texas before, there is a chain of fast casual Mexican restaurants called Taco Cabana.
Taco Cabana.
Mm-hmm, Taco Cabana. And they have a very unique look. It's like pink and, teal green and like all these colors, and they have like a look to it. And they were able to protect their trade dress.
It's like every fruiteria down here.
So I mean, it depends. It depends on the layers that are being infringed and what's being infringed and how it's being infringed. And so that's an analysis, though, right? And most people go, "Can you just sue for me?" And we're like, "I don't know. We'd have to look at we need more information." And that's where you'd engage us to have you help us. And then people are like, "Oh, I don't really care." It's like, okay, well then you don't care.
So with something like that, who or what body, who's actually doing the comparison? Who are the ones that are saying you know what, it does look like that. Here's your money. You know what I'm saying? Who's that person?
Depends on where you're at in the process. So there's various ways to adjudicate these issues, meaning come to a conclusion by law. So one of them is the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board. So if you're disputing over trademarks, you can go to an administrative proceeding. There's no money involved, though. So it's just you all pay your own way, you pay your own lawyers, and then at the end, they decide whether or not a trademark is registrable or not, or should maintain its registration, or should be registered at all. That's it, though. They're administrative. There's no damages, no attorney's fees, no nothing. You just go to prove your point, basically. Then there's the courts, the federal courts, that decide whether or not someone's infringing, and that's where you would start talking about damages and attorney's fees and that kind of stuff. But most people think, oh, well, attorney's fees are available. Yeah, they're available if you go all the way to trial, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars often. So it's like your damages better be in the millions if you're going to spend hundreds of thousands to get you there. You know
what
what I mean?
about sorry, I cut you off. What about Sister Nancy? Bum, 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 bum.
Give me one margarita, that one. That lady?
Oh, wait,
Sister
hum
Nancy.
that again?
Who's Sister Nancy?
Reggae.
Oh, I don't. I'm
Bum,
like,
bum, be-dum,
Bum,
bum,
bum.
that, I didn't know that.
What happened? What happened with her?
So everyone was using her
Sampling
her music for 20 years,
Yeah.
plus, and she never saw a single dollar. And it wasn't until recently, maybe a few years ago, where she finally started suing or whatever.
Probably because she didn't have standing at the time. So that's the other thing. A lot of people think about artists that it's the artist's rights that they're protecting, when oftentimes when you're assigned to a label and the label's recording your stuff, you own nothing.
They own the master.
They own everything.
But was the label getting anything either?
I don't know.
Interesting.
We don't know.
I just remember hearing that
I don't know.
story.
It was
like
probably
how-
the label taking everything and her getting nothing.
Maybe. Or her producer or her co-writer or her, because oftentimes you're looking at these line credits on a song or something and it's performed by this person, so you get credit for singing.
Yeah.
But if you didn't write it, record it, mix it, master it, do anything, you don't own the copyright. Then you have an interest in your sound, but that's it.
I remember you saying you don't. What is your the cases you love working on? What are the main cases you work on? I don't believe. Is it music? Is it logos? Is it?
We do a lot of art. I love art cases. So I believe that art can transform the world. Honestly, I really do. And a lot of our clients in the art space are, working on social justice issues and bringing awareness to important issues in the world right now, especially because things aren't that great, for a lot of people. So using art to kind of express yourself and put yourself out there, I love those cases because we really show our clients how we can, especially if their art becomes popular, the opportunities for licensing, the opportunities for collaborations with big brands. Fashion labels love artists because they can take prints and make them into fabrics, and then they get a share of it. And so being on our artist client side early on is really cool because we can see exactly how we've helped them increase their revenue. So I really like that
So
stuff.
you're low key you're like an agent.
No, I'm not an agent because I'm not licensed. California,
You're getting these deals
California,
for people.
you have to be licensed, and we don't always do. We're not getting all of the deals, but we spot opportunities, and if they have an in or inroads, or if we have inroads, we can often make introductions. So yeah.
Right.
So a lot of artists, a lot of them are broke, and they're artists. They love creating art for the sake of creating art. They're true artists, and they create a lot of art. And the reason why I say a lot of them are broke is, at what point are they gonna? They're not making a whole bunch of money. They don't have money to hire a lawyer. But you never know. It just takes that one art. The right person sees it, it blows up.
Yep.
Right. At what point do they say, I need to go see an attorney right away?
So I created something for those artists in particular, and it's a resource guide for emerging artists, and it's called Art into Assets, and it's for emerging artists that can't afford a lawyer, and I think it's like $500. So, I mean, and you get an entire library full of suggestions for deal making, ways to look out for yourself when doing licensing deals and projects, a walkthrough of actually how to register a copyright of a piece of art for yourself. So that way you don't have to hire a lawyer if you don't want to. And when you are ready to hire one, I would say if there's somebody coming to you with like a big deal and they're like, we'll pay you $20,000, and you're like, sweet. And then they're like, for all of your art. And you're like, wait, what? Like, do I own it still? Well, we'd let you use it. And it's like, wait. So once you start feeling out of your depth, I think that's important. But, there's also resources out there that I've created for people who can't afford a lawyer.
Art into
What
Assets.
are they? And where can they find it?
So they're on my website. Art into Assets is one. And then there's also video content that I push out. We have various blog content and everything. So we try to make the information as accessible as possible. And then the Art into Assets, I can just sing ass. Art into ass. Art into Assets. The resource guide is really helpful because it has a bunch of videos, and it goes into that mentality that most artists are broke and that you can't make money off your art. That is.
I didn't say you can't make money.
But that
mentality.
leads people to believe that, right? When they go, well, I'm not making any money, so obviously there's no money in art, which is not true at all. There's plenty of money in art. It's just a matter of where's your in and how are you exploiting that.
Right. With the, I think you may have told me this a long time ago, but with a piece of art, so if I paint something. Right, you know how artists, they have a painting and then they sell prints.
Yeah.
So they print them out and then they sell those prints. So they obviously own that art and they're selling the prints of it. Then what if they sell that original work of art? Say I sell it to you and now you own that piece of art. Can I still sell my prints?
Yeah, because when you sell me the original work, you're not selling the copyright.
Got it.
You're selling the print. So now I have the right to display it in my house, but I don't have the right to make prints off of it.
Right. Even if it's the original.
Yeah, because I'm only selling you the original.
Right.
I'm not selling you the copyright to the original. I'm selling you the painting.
Yeah.
You're getting the painting. You're not getting the copyright. If you want the copyright, we can talk about that, but you're going to pay a lot more.
Right. What makes some of these pieces of artwork so valuable? Hundy mills.
Time, the author not being alive anymore, or we say author, people that author, the artist.
Yeah.
Our artists not being alive anymore oftentimes will jack up that price because they can't make any more of it.
Right.
Money laundering.
Yeah.
I didn't say it.
But continue.
Massive write-offs.
It is though.
Yeah.
It is a tax.
Yeah.
A tax sheltering opportunity for people with lots of money. And I'm not mad at those people because artists need to live. They need to eat. Like, let's get them paid,
Yeah.
You know what, like the beautiful thing I thought about, like NFTs, right? Like not buying.
I still am bullish on NFTs. I know people are like, oh, it's so stupid. I'm like, I actually think the delivery mechanism for content is unmatched through NFTs. I think it's really cool. And then there's the blockchain aspect of it as well. I think that we're overlooking, it was like the .com, right? Everyone's like, websites, .com, and then they all blew up and then it all crashed. But websites didn't go away.
Right.
.com, they're still top level domains. Like they still matter. Everybody who buys a website wants the .com.
Right.
So that didn't go away.
I think it's just people understanding it fully.
You're never gonna. Do you understand the internet?
Yeah, I understand it.
So you could tell me exactly how the internet works.
Yeah.
Like from the guts of it, like from the background of the internet, like who started it, where it came from, how it works.
I'm telling you that you don't understand.
No, I'm telling you, you understand how to use it.
No, I understand that it's a series of servers and that we all create it. Every single person that has a server or a computer in every aspect it's a web of servers. And the information is accessible from different entry points.
Sure.
And it's just a big web of servers and the data is
But did
stored.
you use the internet before you learned that?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So
it's about using
simpler,
it and getting it into people's heads.
Right. But think about, I think it's like the same idea with internet on your TV, right? It took decades for that to catch on.
Yeah.
They tried to do it early on and it just kept failing. Like, why?
I think the tech wasn't that great either.
People, like, why aren't they using the internet on the TV?
Because the Wi-Fi was terrible.
And it was just like clunky, and it was just hard to access.
Because you'd have to router into the TV.
And then finally, they developed a format that simplified it, and now it's like the standard. And it's like to this day, like I think I get an NFT, I get the concept a little bit, but as far as me actually attempting to utilize it in my everyday life, like the internet, it's like. Then it gets confusing and it seems risky, and I just stay away from it.
I like it for certain things, like title for homes and houses, because there's a lot of like property issues, like real property issues in the world where there's like wild deeds where someone's like, no, wait, I own that house. Actually, here's my deed. It would be great if there was a system that could verify those things, like the blockchain, right? Because it's hard to tamper with it. I think the big issue with NFT, blockchain, and all of that is obviously people who know how to use it better than lay people, than normal everyday people. And so there's a lot of scamming involved. And there's everyone talks about wanting to cut out middlemen from everything. Like when you go to a bank, most people aren't going into the bank anymore. You're going to your bank's website and you're logging into the bank, but you're using the bank as a middleman to manage your money, right? Well, I go to the bank too, but we're old, right? So but like I have a SoFi account and there's no SoFi banks. Like where am I going into I'm like, how do I deposit this check? Like I don't know what I'm doing. But there's, I think that there's this idea that as long as it's on this website, it's safe. And that's this false sense of security because we're already doing everything digitally as it is. And there's already a high level of risk to hacking anyway. But I think that when you control it yourself, it's scarier for a lot of people because they're like, well, I'm controlling it myself. And if I fuck it up, no one's going to be able to help me, right? And so people like the security of being able to call the bank or call the helpline or call this or call that. So I think until they figure out a way to make it seem more secure, I don't know if it'll ever be more secure, but until they find out a way to make the scammers less prevalent, I think it's going to have a hard time moving forward, moving into like the real mainstream.
What I always thought was cool about the blockchain and the NFT, not the JPEG. I always thought that was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But you have a physical art, right?
Yeah.
And with the blockchain, is every time you sell it, because you could sell it, the original artist gets a piece of that pie.
Yep. Exactly.
And you can control.
I love that too.
And you can control
the amount.
You can control the amount.
Yep, you can control the amount. You can set the amount. You can control the rights too in the smart contract. So it's a really cool way of monitoring where things are going and where they come from. I also really liked what StockX was doing. They got sued for it, but I liked what they were doing with their Nikes because sneakerheads collect shoes and they don't wear them. Right. You're not like buying them to wear, which I think is weird, but I get it. Cool. look at your shoes. It's like I guess it's like collecting figures, right? Figurines or whatever. But
put them on your shelf.
But I liked what they were doing because what StockX would do is they would say, okay, you want to buy this like super rare pair of Nikes. Okay, you own the Nikes. However, instead of shipping them to you, we'll keep them in our temperature controlled facility for you, and then we'll issue you the NFT. And the NFT is the proof, and we secure it on the blockchain so we know that it was sold to you. And when you want the shoes, we'll ship them to you, and then the NFT gets burned. So you don't own the NFT anymore. Or you sell the shoes, and the NFT transfers to somebody else, right? So it's a cool way of tracking things like ownership and how long a piece of art's been around for, or title for property.
It sort of sounds like owning gold and silver stock, without owning the actual gold and silver.
Yeah, it's like because you're like, I own gold bullion. Okay, show me where your bullion is.
Yeah.
Like where you go get it. Like you go into the I'd like to get into the safe, please, and see my gold bars.
Right.
Like,
and that's the thing is like with the whole NFT and the blockchain, it's like because I don't understand it, I can't just readily go do something. Like if I know that if I want to make a website, I know I can go do that really quickly. I know the path.
Yeah.
It's clear in my brain. And when it comes to that, I'm like, when you're talking about, creating the certificate for this and offering the 1% for that, I have literally no idea where to go to do that.
Well, it's not the NFT, it's the blockchain behind the NFT.
Right. And there's multiple of those? Or
yeah. But you know what I don't like about it though? And this is what I liked about Bitcoin, like when I first started learning about it a long time ago, before it blew up, where I sold and could have been really rich right now. But anyways,
Sold too early, goddammit.
Got out too soon.
What I liked about it was the decentralization of it.
I like that too.
I like the decentralization
Right.
of it.
It feels more egalitarian too.
But but also what I don't like is you could track me
Oh yeah.
from everything I buy. Like with cash, I could buy something.
But they're already trying to do that with cash.
They're trying to get rid of cash.
Yeah,
right?
they're trying to get rid. Well, and what they're trying to do is get rid of cash and then create a tracking system for all of our money.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I mean,
They're already
that's
tracking it anyway.
I was gonna say that's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Every time you use your card, tracking it.
It's gonna happen. I think no matter what. I mean, if we're gonna get into this conspiracy theories,
Let's go.
I
Be
think
on the right side of it.
yeah. I mean, is there really a right side? I mean, capitalism is tough because
Right.
it provides so much opportunity for people, and it also creates systems where people have to be down here in order for these people to be up here. It's not like capitalism won't work if everyone's up here and everyone is.
Yeah, in order for
fairly.
me to win, you have to lose.
Some people
Right.
have to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a weird system, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make it.
I get it too.
I get it too, though. Yeah. Like, I mean, hello, I'm a for-profit law firm owner.
Well, yeah, because like I was thinking about it too, like how hard it is for us to run a business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how to grow a business, and how much risk we put in, how many times we had to lose in order to win, and how much financial cost that took, and how many times we had to drain our bank accounts, to get to this point. And for us to finally get it, only 5% of entrepreneurs will actually become successful. And if you make it to that 5%, then someone says, "Hey, you have to distribute that equally," and it's like, but he didn't take the financial risk.
Right.
He didn't. All he has to do is do this.
Yep.
He could do the same thing.
And that percentage goes down if you're a woman, and particularly if you're a woman of color too. So like all of that is, that 5%, it goes to like 2% if you're someone that looks like me. So it's, I get it. I don't think it's a perfect system. I think it's just something that we have to live with and operate within. And then we try, as business owners, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're putting something good out into the world and not trying to fuck people over,
Right.
To the best of our abilities. Although you're always going to be the villain in someone else's story.
I think most
long and
people
short of
are.
it.
I think most people are good, but you're always gonna have the bad with the bad with the good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
True
Well,
that.
that's a good way to end.
That was awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. Where can
ahead.
people find you? How are they gonna find you?
You can find me on my website, TrestleLaw, TRESTLELAW.com, or you can find me on TikTok at Kristen_Roberts_Esquire or at Trestle Law on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms.
That's right.
Yeah.
And watch out for her videos.
Oh yeah.
A lot of hot fire videos
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
soon.
I don't know who helped me with those. I don't know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Kristen.
guys.
Anything else do we have?
Hit the outro.
Okay.
This has been another episode of the Get Louder Podcast.